I sit alone in my four-cornered room staring at candles. Oh, that shit is on?
Hey YouTube, my name is James. This is my channel, James Ruins Movies. I have no idea how to start this, so I think we're just going to jump right into it. So my first movie that I think we're going to talk about is one of my favorites. It's Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction was written and directed by Quentin Tarantino back in '94. It came out when he was like 33 years old, and this was his second movie. Technically his third if you consider True Romance, but Tony Scott directed that, so this is technically Quentin's second movie that he wrote and directed. And the story with the Tony Scott movie is that he showed him the script to Reservoir Dogs and True Romance and said pick one, and Tony Scott chose True Romance, which honestly, in my opinion, was the better movie for Tony Scott, because that really is like a Tony Scott movie. And I like that Quentin stuck with Reservoir Dogs for his first movie, because like it's in one location, so it's a lot easier to like shoot. It's nothing but heavy dialogue, like it's a Quentin movie, so I'm really glad he chose that one instead. Pulp Fiction came out in 1994 and had a budget of about $9 million and grossed over $200 million. For '94, that's a phenomenal. Even at today's standards, that'd be a really well done movie. Now, Pulp Fiction comes from the old magazines from I think the 50s or even 30s or 40s. They were Black Mass magazines and pulp magazines, and they were like crime stories. And really, if you think about Pulp Fiction, it's just like 3 or 4 crime stories told into one. So that's where Pulp comes from. Now, Pulp Fiction is arguably Quentin Tarantino's best movie. It's definitely a cult following, and it's always named as one of the top movies. But really, if we're going to talk about Quentin movies, personally, I think Jackie Brown's a whole lot better. I love Samuel Jackson as the villain in that movie with just his luscious blonde hair, and it's just, to me, the music choice was a lot better. I personally enjoy Jackie Brown more, but Pulp Fiction is definitely a cult following. It's one of in my opinion, it's one of the best movies ever, because how well it's done. But honestly, just Jackie Brown I thought was better. So we start with the beginning of the movie, which is really in the middle of the movie, where we're in a diner, and it's a man and woman discussing whether or not they're going to continue their life of crime. Pumpkin and Honey Bunny. And Pumpkin is really Ringo. And can I just say real quick, Ringo, the greatest insult ever for a British person in a movie. And I love that it's just so subtle, and they don't even really talk about it, but it's just great to me. I love it. So they're discussing whether or not they're going to stay in their life of crime. Ringo ends up having a talking about how a guy robbed a bank with a telephone, and then just a variety of foreigners they might rob. It's fine back then. So after some time, they have the brilliant idea of just robbing the restaurant. Brilliant, really. I've never heard that before. So, love you, Honey Bunny. Everybody be cool. This is a robbery. Boom, into the opening credits, which I thought was from the Black Eyed Peas, but actually it's Miserlou from Dick Dale and his Dale Tones. Wow. Also, had no idea this was produced by Jersey Films. Jersey Films is Danny DeVito's production company, or at least it used to be. I'm really not sure if it still is, but back in the day he used to do that. Now, the intro credits are just an acid trip, getting big and small, going everywhere. A Band Apart is Quentin's production company, which is a reference to a French new wave film, A Band Apart. A Band Apart by Jean-Jacques Gordon. But honestly, Breathless is better. Now, this next part of the movie would actually technically kind of be the only part of the movie that would be in the right order that it should be in. This is the scene where Vince and Jules are driving in the car on their way to go meet Brett and his friends. Now, Vince is played by John Travolta, and Jules is played by Samuel Jackson. And now, while they're in the car, they're just 2 hitmen on their way to a hit, but they're just having conversation about the trip that Vince just came back from, and they're talking about Amsterdam and just I guess England in general, or just around there, and everything that goes on. Royale with cheese, you can bring a beer into the movie theater. And honestly, the trip that Vince is talking about in this movie, his trip to Amsterdam, was apparently the trip that Quentin actually did take while writing this movie. So once they get to the spot, Jules starts telling Vince about Mia. Mia is Marcellus Wallace's wife. That's the boss of these two men. And Jules tells Vince that Mia used to be on a pilot. A pilot is the first show of a TV show, and her pilot, it didn't go anywhere. And fun fact, the pilot that Uma Thurman's character Mia ends up telling you, like talking about later on, that's Kill Bill. Like, you know, if you really listen to the story, Fox Force 5, that's Kill Bill. And actually, speaking about Kill Bill, Quentin Tarantino and Uma Thurman kind of came up with the concept during the making of this. Quentin was telling Uma Thurman about an idea he had, and she kind of brought up the whole bride character. So, like, that's how Kill Bill really originated from this movie here. What's great, though, really, is the next scene where Jules' character is telling Vince a story about how Marcellus Wallace threw a guy named Tony Rocky Horror out of a 4-story building. Fell 4 stories. And what's funny about this scene is that Vince starts telling Jules how like Tony fucked up by touching Mia's feet. And what's funny about this is later on, Vince is in the mirror talking himself out of having sex with Mia's character, which is always just funny to me how, like, you know, oxymoron Vince's character is throughout this whole movie. So after them talking, they end up at the door of Brett and his friend's place to grab Marcellus Wallace's briefcase back. Now, the funny thing is, I always thought the guy's name was Brett. Seriously, I had to look up everyone's name in this just so I didn't sound like an idiot. Always thought it was checked out the big brain on Brett. But apparently it's Brett. Life. Now, I really want you all to pay attention to the next scene that happens in this movie. It's like the scene where Samuel L. Jackson is just fucking with Brett and his friends and like really getting into their head and everything like that and just having fun. But really, I really want you to pay attention to John Travolta's character in this, like Vince, because if you really think about it, like, he just got back into town. These two haven't seen each other in, I think, a couple years and everything, but you can tell they've worked together before. Like, Vince is just, he's moving so smooth in the scene. He's going with Samuel L. Jackson. He cocks his gun right at the end of the speech, and like they both send a message at the same time. It really is perfect directing. Like, I love it. Now, the next part of the movie might be closer to like the third act or even like the end of like the second act, but it's the scene where Bruce Willis and Ving Rhames, his character, are talking to each other, Butch and Marcellus Wallace. And Marcellus is telling Butch how he's going to throw the boxing match that's coming up. That's pride fucking with you. Big ass band-aid on the back of Marcellus Wallace's neck, and there's theories to that. But before we go into that, I just want to talk about the briefcase real quick. The briefcase is known as a MacGuffin. Now, MacGuffin was invented by Alfred Hitchcock, and what a MacGuffin is basically something that just helps move the story along, but has nothing to do with the final outcome. Think the movie Maltese Falcon. So, like, look at the briefcase. Like, it's in multiple scenes, but really it has nothing to do with the final outcome or really anything. And we never know what's inside of it. The whole theory to that is it's Marcellus Wallace's soul because of the Band-Aid and everything. But really, like Quentin has said in the script, like it was diamonds, but he didn't like the idea of diamonds because they stole diamonds in Reservoir Dogs. So really, he just wanted to leave it up to the viewer, like have it be anything they want it to be. Personally, I really think it's just either coke or heroin. Oh, fun fact about this movie. One of the gangsters, Paul, played by Paul Calderon, was supposed to be Jules in this movie, but Samuel Jackson just stole the show. But what I love is that Paul was still in this movie. They really had just so many great names in this. Eric Stoltz played Lance the drug dealer, and in my opinion, Eric Stoltz played the greatest drug dealer of all time. He's just in a bathrobe, eating cereal, selling heroin. Like, it's just amazing. So the next scene is Vince at Lance's house buying drugs. And what I love about this scene is that Vince's character has no problem spending $1,500 on heroin, but then later on complains about like having to spend $5 on a milkshake. Like, it's a very unique character, and I love it. So after some time talking, Vince decides to shoot up before seeing Mia, which honestly, not the greatest idea to shoot up heroin before you see the boss's wife, but I mean, she's sniffing coke the whole time, so who cares? So after they meet each other, they end up at Jackrabbit Slim's, which is a diner. And had no idea Steve Buscemi was in this movie, but he plays the waiter at the restaurant. Martin and Lewis are Amos and Andy. Like, it's just so subtle in this movie. I love it. Then it goes into like the Fox Force 5 thing, which is the Kill Bill reference. And then also what I love about this movie is Quentin Tarantino's music choice in just every scene. Like, it's just beautiful and it fuses together. And I really miss that in cinema. Like, the days where a director would work with a composer and the composer would just put every bit of piece of music together and it would just make the whole movie just like fuse and just like go. It was just amazing back then. But that's not really what happened in this movie. It was more Quentin choosing his favorite music for the movie. But even that, like, you really don't see that as much anymore, and I miss that. And then another part of this movie I really dug was the John Travolta's mannerisms in the whole movie. Like, he's constantly having conversations, like, just with like the way he's moving or just like little things. You really see that when he's talking to Jules about Feed, and really when he's talking to Mia about Tony Rocky Horror with the situation, like just the little things he's doing. Like, I love it. And then another thing that makes this scene really great is that it was the first time forever like people got to see Travolta dance, and Quentin really knew that people wanted to see that, like Days of Grease and like Saturday Night Fever, like, so he knew like people really wanted to see that. Also, how the hell did they win that contest? Like, that was the whitest Ed Sullivan dance I've ever seen, and they won. Was everyone else just like shaking on stage? But anyway, so Vince and Mia go back to Mia's place, and they kind of have a moment there. So Mia decides to put on music, and that's where Vince goes to the bathroom. Now Mia puts on the perfect song for a scene. It's "Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon" by Urge Overkill, and it's just perfect. Like I said, just it fuses. And that's where Vince is in the bathroom having the conversation that every guy has when they're about to do something really shitty, which is just funny because he's just always saying, "Oh, like shouldn't put themselves in these situations," and he's putting himself in this situation. So while he's having this conversation with himself, Mia's dancing around, ends up on the couch, finds Vince's little bag. I think she thought it was coke. That's how I always took the scene, but it's heroin. Didn't have the heart tell her it was heroin. So she does that. Bam, she's out, like just out cold. That's where Vince comes out, sees Mia ODing, and then he just starts freaking out. Decides to go back to Lance's house. While they're there, like, Lance is just like having the biggest argument with Vince because he just does not want him there, but then finds out it's Marcellus Wallace's wife, so he has to help him. So now I absolutely love this scene, like this next scene where like the adrenaline and like everyone's running around, it's getting really like panicky, and you just have like that girl on the couch who's smoking a bong and just watching everything, and then like Lance and his chick are fighting. Like, it's just a really well done scene, and I know it's like an important scene, but I don't really know why. It's like the end of Remains of the Day with Anthony Hopkins where the bird comes in. Like, I know it's a really important scene, but I don't know why. So after some time of like Lance and Vince arguing, Vince hits her with an adrenaline shot. Boom. Mia gets back up. She's completely fine. But something I always thought about, Mia's house has cameras in it. So like, when Marcellus finally gets back, he's going to want to check that footage. And it's like, oh, how come the minute you and Vince got back, there's like 2 hours of like footage missing? It's like a lose-lose. Now, the next part of the movie would technically be the beginning, because like it makes the most sense. It's when Butch is a child and Christopher Walken's character comes in. And Christopher Walken's only in this movie for 5 to 10 minutes, and it really is like the best part of the movie. And that's what I love, like movies where like you're only in there for a few minutes, but you just own the room and it's the best part of the movie. Think Alec Baldwin and Glenn Ross. He's only in that movie 10 minutes, and that is the best part of that movie. So basically, Christopher Walken's character knew Butch's father. They were in the war together, and he's telling him how his father died and like the history of his father's watch and how it goes back to his whole lineage and everything. Gives him the watch. Boom, we're 20, 30 years later where Butch is about to like throw the fight. But he doesn't throw the fight. He ends up killing the guy in the ring instead because he bet on himself to win. So now he's on the run. And he ends up in a cab with a French girl, which is a total homage to the French New Wave. Like, movies like that, Taxi Girl, and then like Butch's girlfriend that we see later on. That's all like just homages to French New Wave. And what I love about this scene is the fake background, the fake driving background, like the exaggerated one that you always see in old movies. And like a show that we used to really do that a lot, and I loved, was That 70s Show. Like anytime they were in the car, just the background was always fake with that one light going by. So after they get back to the hotel, um, Butch and like his wife are talking and everything. They hook up, shower and everything. But then Butch notices that she forgot the watch, his father's watch at like their apartment, and they're supposed to be on the run. So now Butch has to go back. But what I love, before he goes back, he does the greatest just freak out ever and then is instantly calm again. Like that is just great acting because it's just like fuck, and then he comes back and he's like, it's cool, it's cool. So now he's in the car saying everything he wanted to say to her but couldn't. And then he gets to his apartment, but he's in the back. And what I love about this next scene is like it's one of my favorite technical scenes ever because I'm not 100% sure how they do it, but I just love it. And the scene is when Butch is in the back way of his apartment going in, and he goes through that fence, and the cameraman follows him through the fence. Now it was like a little opening, and like I know you're saying, oh, they were just holding the camera, and they had some type of rig, but this is the '90s, so like that had to be a pretty big ass rig, or even if it's a little camera, like it was a big ass camera, and they just subtly went through that fence and then just went up, and it's like I still don't know how they did it. Because yeah, you might be holding her up a rig, but it looked like it should have been a little more hard doing it the way they did. But it was just so seamless. Like I want to know how they did it because I love that shot. Also, can I just say, really dick move on Butch's part for not telling his coach or trainers like what he was gonna do. Though like they ended up getting the dog sicked on him. Like he could have told him like, hey, run or something like that. So Butch ends up in his apartment, and he has to be careful now. He's being all sneaky because Marcellus Wallace's guys are probably after him. Finds the watch, makes a Pop-Tart, notices the machine gun, and I guess Vince was waiting for him. And what's funny about this movie is anytime Vince goes to the bathroom, something bad happens. And this was the worst case scenario. He gets murdered. So, and like Butch kills like 3 people in this movie. And like I always thought this movie was so violent. Only really like 7 people die, and Butch takes out 3 of them. So like Butch kills him, ends up like leaving the apartment now, thinks he's got away, he's scot-free, starts driving along. Now this next part to me is kind of bullshit. Like it doesn't make sense to me. It's when Marcellus Wallace walks by to go back to the apartment to meet Vince, because I guess he was on the stakeout with him looking for Butch. Butch sees him and runs him over. Now what's bullshit to me about this is Marcellus Wallace is supposed to be like the biggest like drug lord or kingpin, whatever, in this movie. He wouldn't be walking by himself down the street. Like, yeah, he had Vince, but still, like, you're a big time boss. You would have more than one guy on you, So, like, that part to me is just a little bullshit. And, like, I really don't think the boss would be there personally to kill Butch. I think, like, 2 or 3 guys would be there, grab him, bring him back to the boss. But whatever. So he runs him over. Like, Marcellus Wallace tries shooting at Butch. They end up in the pawn shop. And that's where the pawn guy knocks them out and like takes them captured. Now the pawn shop guy is Maynard, I think his name is. He like the pawn owner, and then you have Zed the cop. And now they take Marcellus Wallace and Butch captive. Oh, and I can't forget about the Gimp. Like, I remember the first time I watched this movie, I was like 12 or 13, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like, they fuck a kingpin in the ass. I'm sorry. And also, what the fuck is the Gimp story? Like, is he part of it? Or is that just like Stockholm Syndrome to the fullest? So they decide to like pick Marcellus Wallace first. So they go in the other room with him. And Butch is left with the Gimp. Breaks out, knocks out the Gimp, goes to leave, but then decides to like help Marcellus Wallace. Like, I don't know why he helps him. Like, I don't think he did it because it's like, oh, now not on the run anymore. I really think he just knew the type of situation he was in. He was like, that's fucked up. So, like, he grabs the sword, goes back down there, sneaks in. Like, we hear the song that's infamous to ass fucking. Sorry. And then, Maynard turns around. Butch, like, just slices him open. That's the 3rd guy that he kills. Like, he falls to the ground. We think he's going to kill Zed, but no. That's where fucking Marcellus Wallace just gets medieval on his ass, shoots him. They kind of have a moment, Butch and Marcellus Wallace, and it's just, 2 things. First, this never happened. And it's just, what the fuck, dude? He's supposed to be the guy, and like that just happened to him. And What's crazy about this movie is like I just realized both Mia and Marcellus have two really fucked up things that happen to them and they don't speak about it. Like that's crazy in this movie. Also, I guess like the Zed part, that's where the band Zed's Dead came from. That's like the reference to this movie. I don't listen to the band, but I just think that's a great name. Like what a reference. So Butch goes back to the hotel, like, because he's good now with Marcellus Wallace. Like, he just has to leave town. So he grabs his chick. They ride out into the sunset. And that would technically be the end of the movie. Like, that really would. That'd be the end of, like, credits rolling and everything. And they kind of set it up that way, too. But we still have, like, 40, 60 minutes left of this movie. And, like, the next part, it jumps back to Vince and Jules in the apartment, where they just killed Brett and the guy on the couch. But we see that there's a guy hiding in the bathroom with a giant ass hand pistol. And so he comes out, tries to kill Vince and Jules, but misses every shot. They kill him. Like they both did like 2 assist kills in this, and then like Vince accidentally kills the guy in the car later on. But so they shoot him. Jules looks over, thinks it was an act of God, that like a divine intervention that saved them. Vince just thinks it was like any other thing, like it just happened. So they're in the car talking about this now, and Vince is like just talking to the guy in the back. The guy in the back is Jules' partner. But anyway, Jules' partner, Vince accidentally shoots him. His head blows up, and they have to hide the car now. So Jules hits up his friend Jimmy, who's a partner of his. Now Jimmy is played by Quentin Tarantino, and they hit him up to hide the car in the garage. And that's the infamous, storage scene. And today's standard, you could not do that scene. You really couldn't do this movie today. But personally, I don't see anything wrong with this type of movie. Like, I think it's hilarious. Quentin goes after, like, every person equally. Yeah, he goes after black people a little bit more, but, like, I think it's pretty equal. Like, even Hillbilly Boy just makes me laugh. So, like, they decide to hide the car at Jimmy's place, who's Quentin, and then, like, that's where Jules hits up Marcellus. Marcellus says, I got it, we're gonna bring in the wolf, and the wolf is played by Harvey Keitel. Now, just like Christopher Walken in this movie, Harvey Keitel's in it for just a few minutes, but literally just owns the whole movie. It's great. Like, he's in there, he tells him exactly what to do, how to do it, and, like, just plays no shit. Like, even at one point, Vince tries talking shit to him, and just, like, the wolf ain't having any of that. Tells him exactly what to do, boom, bam, perfect. Gets it done, gets the car out of there, does the whole spray off scene. They bring it to the dump and, like, do all that. Anyway, they end up back at the diner. Now, this is that scene in the beginning where we saw Honey Bunny and Ringo together. So now Vince and Jules are there, and they're just having a whole conversation about, like, everything that just happened. And, like, Jules tells Vince that he's leaving the life now. Like, he just wants to walk the earth, like Kane in Kung Fu. Says all that. Vince gets up, goes to use the bathroom. That's where we now jump to Honey Bunny and Ringo robbing the place. So Ringo and Honey Bunny decide they're gonna rob the place, and I love you, Pumpkin. I love you, Honey Bunny. Everybody, be cool. This is a robbery. They start robbing the place, getting all the workers out and everything. And Jules sees this, and, like, he's ready for it. Like, he has his wallet out, puts the briefcase to the side, has his gun ready. Ringo finally makes his way over to Vince. Not Vince, I keep saying that. Jules. They have their little moment and everything. Jules gives him the wallet. Like, after some time, they talk about the briefcase. Like, he opens it up for Ringo. He sees what's inside the briefcase, memorized. Jules grabs him, puts the gun to his face, has him sit down, has a little standoff with Honey Bunny, and then it goes into probably Samuel L. Jackson's greatest performance ever. And, like, I really mean this. And this isn't my favorite movie at all with Samuel L. Jackson, but you can't deny how strong and powerful of a scene this is. And he's had a few of those, so I don't want to just give it to this movie, because Sunset Boulevard was absolutely amazing. A Time to Kill, like, he just owned that movie. So, like, I don't want to just say this in particular, but I get chills every time I just hear his monologue with Tim Roth, Ringo, where he's just having this whole moment with him, telling him how he would just waste him if it was any other time, but after this moment, like, he just wants to change. And then just that whole thing with the Bible, and ends up letting him live, gives him some money, he walks out, Vince comes out eventually. He's having a little standoff with him, but notices that Jules is going to let him go. They leave. So now Vince and Jules get up to leave, put in their guns, and they just walk out. And just that's the end of the movie. And it really is. It's just such a great movie. It wasn't told in order, but like the non-linear storytelling was just perfect in this movie. And I really feel like I should give these movies like a rating system when I finally finish them all. And I think I'm going to do like 1 to 5 stars. And with like, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the best. And with this type of movie, like it's just so goddamn amazing. And like it really is a cult following. So with this movie, I'm going to rank it high. I don't think I'll ever give it a movie like a 5 because there's no such thing as perfect movie. And I really don't think I'll ever give like a movie a 0 because there's no such thing as a bad movie. Like there's just movies that were just put out too quick, or just they weren't listening to the director, or the director just didn't care, or someone didn't care. So there's no really such thing as a bad movie. So with this movie, I think I'm going to give it 4.5 stars because it really deserves it. This movie is just brilliant and I love it. So this is the first this is the first episode to my channel. I'm really not sure how it's going to go. But like, we're going to keep doing this. I'm going to try to shoot them once a week, at least to start off with, and they're going to air every Monday, I think. So thank you, YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed this. Have a good day.